has he been all this time?
I'm gonna enjoy this.
Han Lu has had an even longer journey than most people realize since his first appearance wasn't even in the Fast and Furious franchise at all. His character first showed up in the movie Better Luck Tomorrow, directed by Justin Lin, who is at the helm of many Fast and Furious movies, including the upcoming F9. Lin was such a big fan of actor Sung Kang that he invited him to read for the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift and ended up deciding to incorporate Han into the film. And now he's brought Han back yet again, but this time it's seemingly from beyond the grave. Ooh, spooky. Having characters supposedly perish and then come back isn't a very useful plot device, especially in this franchise, but Han really seemed to be gone for good. His car was T-boned by Deckard Shaw, and Han was caught up in a massive explosion. They even threw the guy a funeral, and nobody thought to check and see if he was really gone? That seems like a huge oversight, since the Fast family is generally more into planning heists than planning funerals. Maybe Dom was just so upset at the thought of losing his friend that he didn't have time to check out all the details, like, are we sure he perished in a fiery wreck? There are tons of theories out there regarding what really happened to Han and where he's been all this time. This probably isn't Han's long-lost twin brother or a hologram designed to look just like him. At first, the amnesia angle seems to be a pretty solid one. Maybe Han didn't perish in that terrible crash, but he sustained a head injury serious enough to affect his memory. The accident could have destroyed his personal effects, leaving him with no way to discover his true identity until now. After all, would Han really have let his friends think that he was gone if he was still alive? He couldn't have wanted a private place to eat his snacks that badly. Amnesia would be a simple solution to this complex problem. But there's one huge reason it seems unlikely in this scenario, and that's because we've seen it before. There was a time when we all thought Letty Ortiz was gone for good before she turned up in Fast and Furious 6 with a bad case of amnesia. This plot device was already bordering on too convenient with Letty, so it seems really unlikely they'd rely on it again to explain where Han has been.
When you guys figure it out, then I guess you can let me know.
But there is an interesting theory about his reappearance and how it ties into an important part of the Fast and Furious franchise. Everyone knows that when Dwayne Johnson joined the series as Luke Hobbs, he didn't exactly get along with fellow actor Vin Diesel behind the scenes. Okay, that may be a massive understatement. Things got ugly quickly in the Fast family, and eventually, Johnson and Diesel even refused to be on the same set at the same time. But instead of drawing a sitcom-style line down the center of the set, Johnson was banished to his own spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw. But there was one serious problem with this, at least in the eyes of Han fans. Mostly, the fans had an issue which had to do with the Shaw part of Hobbs and Shaw. They felt that after Deckard Shaw brutally took out Han, he didn't deserve to have co-billing in a Fast and Furious spin-off. They demanded justice for Han, something that Hobbs and Shaw didn't even come close to delivering. The film tried to redeem Deckard, but how could it when Han was still gone? Vin Diesel has talked about future spin-offs, and Hobbs and Shaw are very much alive in the universe. They could return at some point in time, and it would be nowhere near as surprising as Han's reappearance. But with Han gone, Deckard's presence in the Fast universe was considered controversial by many. If he mysteriously comes back, it's obviously a lot easier to accept that Deckard isn't in prison. This is a way to offer fans justice for Han without having to punish Deckard. So, now that we know why Han is coming back, let's talk about the how, because it could also have something to do with Hobbs and Shaw, or more specifically, the character Brixton Lore. You know, the other guy who supposedly met his end at the hands of Deckard Shaw, only to reemerge later. Brixton was once an M16 agent who signed up with the terrorist organization Etion. After taking a serious blow from Deckard, Brixton was rebuilt by Etion and decked out with all kinds of nifty cybernetic enhancements. If this kind of technology exists in the Fast and Furious universe, is it really so crazy to suggest that it could have been used to save Han? Unlike the amnesia angle, it would be possible to add enough different details to this scenario to make what happened to Han different from Brixton's story, while at the same time, it would offer an interesting connection between the two characters who were both wronged by Deckard, only to emerge significantly stronger than before. Etion reviving Han is an option, but what would be their motivation for doing so? He wasn't working for them like Brixton was, and they probably don't choose their cybernetic operatives by casing out active car fires. All things considered, it seems really unlikely that Etion would revive Han, so let's talk about other possible suspects. It would definitely have to be someone clever with access to incredible technology the average person doesn't. they would also need a reason to keep Han alive, and that reason doesn't necessarily have to be altruistic.
There's something much greater at work here.
If someone rescued and revived him out of the kindness of their heart, then he probably wouldn't have been missing for quite so long. Could Cypher have something to do with Han's reappearance? After all, there are still a lot of things that we don't know about her character, but we do know that she's not above manipulating Dom by using his loved ones. We've seen her blackmail Dom by using his ex Elena and their son in the past, and now it seems like she's collaborating with his brother Jacob. She is not a fan of the Fast family, and it's clear she's been operating behind the scenes for quite some time. Maybe she was keeping tabs on various members of the group, and when Deckard crashed into Han's car, she saw her opportunity. Plus, she already has one of Dom's actual family members on her side, or at least that's what it looks like. The F9 trailer clearly makes it seem as though Jacob and Dom have some unresolved business with each other. After all, there has to be a reason we've never heard Dom or Mia mention him at any point before now. Could this be a classic case of misdirection? Perhaps whatever differences Jacob and his siblings have aren't as bad as they've been made out to be. Maybe Jacob just didn't want to take part in the family barbecues and he and Dom lost touch over the years. Perhaps the real danger in F9 will be the person we least expect. And right above cute little Brian in order of suspicion is Han.
I think this doesn't change a thing.
Okay, so Han is a good, loyal guy, but that was the Han we met ages ago. Could Cypher have kept him alive in order to control him and use him against Dom and the rest of the Fast family? Seeing Dom forced to turn against his good friend Han would definitely be a heavy-hitting emotional moment, and besides all the car chases and explosions, that's why people enjoy the franchise. While seeing Han as a villain would definitely be upsetting, it's at least preferable to the idea that Han would turn on the family of his own accord. If this fictional universe has the kind of technology used to make Brixton more powerful, then having some kind of mind control device isn't that crazy. Or it's possible she has some kind of leverage over him, whether it's the life of a loved one or a self-destruct button she had installed after the crash. This scenario would also help explain why we haven't seen Han until now. If Cypher is using some kind of mind control on him, that would obviously be a lot more complex than just slapping some cybernetic parts on him and calling it a day. Perhaps she resorted to using Elena and Brian because Han just wasn't ready at that time. It's possible she actually intends for Jacob to be a distraction for Dom while she uses Han to pull off her plan without his interference. In defense of this theory, having one of your best friends suddenly come back from beyond would be a great distraction. While we don't know much for sure about where Han has been, we can assume some things based on what we know about his character. Would Han really have let his friends mourn his loss without a good reason? That just doesn't seem like the kind of thing he would do. And surely, if everyone knew he was still alive, there wouldn't have been a funeral. If he wasn't being detained by someone, the only thing that makes sense would be that he believed he was helping his family by remaining hidden.
You can bet on it.
As much as the fans love Han, there are plenty of people in the Fast and Furious universe who don't quite feel the same way. Let's not forget that in Tokyo Drift he managed to anger the Yakuza, which is definitely something that we don't recommend. Han had to cope with the fact that Giselle sacrificed her life for him and understandably took it really hard. It's possible after that he became even more protective of his family and would do anything to avoid putting them in harm's way. If he thought the Yakuza were responsible for his accident and were out to get him, then linking back up with his family would only endanger the people he cares about. Maybe he thought it would be easier if the Yakuza and everyone else thought he was gone for good, and that's why he's been hidden for so long. Fast and Furious fans know that these characters can survive crazy situations that would be lethal in the real world. All of these stunts aren't exactly realistic, and frankly, the fact that anyone is still alive at this point is pretty hard to believe. Maybe Han managed to crawl out of the vehicle just in time and survived without needing any kind of cybernetic enhancements. So, what would make him come back now? Well, it could have something to do with the fact that Cypher is back and apparently working with Jacob. Her misdeeds go way past stealing cars or planning heists. She's literally trying to go nuclear. Perhaps Han believes Cypher is a greater threat to his family and the entire world than the Yakuza, and therefore, his reappearance is just a calculated risk. Either that or he just ran out of snacks wherever he was hiding and had to stock up. However Han managed